So you'll remember that our task is to be able to build a user form that will allow us to edit just one of these records at a time, be able to put some data validation on it, bring all the data together in one place so we can see it. And so, let's see, I think one thing we'll need to do that I didn't get quite done on the last one was set up the hotkey. So I'm going to make Control-Shift-E, make it so it will launch that form for us. So I'm going to go ahead and come to my developer tab, come to my list of macros. There should be one called show form. And then I'm going to go to options and make sure that it says I have a capital E right here, which will put that hotkey on it. So now if I'm there and press Control-Shift-E, that should bring up the form on that record. So number 303, yep, product number 303. That's the name of it, brass banded acrylic timber mallard and so forth. And we've got then, we do have the correct manufacturer showing up here. So that's done by cut down calls. And we see the rest of the list of manufacturers to choose from here. Now, if I choose one of these and say save, let's see, are we saving any of our data yet? We may not even be saving any data yet. Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and do that now? Why don't we go ahead and get our save button to where it's actually saving some data? Any questions before we proceed? All right. So I'm opening up my Visual Basic Editor. And we'll double click on this save button to get us to the code behind that button. So right now it's just unloading the form. I think what I would like to do is I would like to say, I guess we'll just go ahead and do this. We'll just do the saving right here. Now, let's take a look at where we are showing our data. So we've got this sub-procedure here called show the data. And here's where we're bringing the information on, whoops, for the name of our ID. We're not going to let the user edit the ID on this form, but we do want them to be able to edit the name of the product. And so in this case, what we're doing is we're saying, listen, just read off the worksheet at a particular location and put that into a particular property of a particular control on the form. Well, saving is going to be just the opposite of that. So I'm just going to copy that line and bring it up here to CMD save click. And I'm just going to reverse that line. So this is just going to say, listen, just read whatever is in that location of the form and write it out to the current row in column F of my worksheet. And it'll be the same thing for the combo box as well. I'm going to just go down and find where I'm setting the text of that combo box, the very last line in my show the data procedure. And I'll go plug that up on the save as well in my command save click. And again, same thing, I'm just going to reverse that. So whatever the user has done to change the name of the product or the manufacturer of the product, when we click save, it should now write those out to the form, write those out to the worksheet. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and edit one of these. It doesn't really matter which one. I guess I'll do here line 6, Control-Shift-E to bring that up. And I'll change the manufacturer to whatever the very first manufacturer is, Adventure 16. I'll change the product from green to red. Let me get my caps figured. Variable not defined. Ah, okay, so this is part of that problem where my code collapsed and we got it from another student. So let's take a look and make one modification here. Cancel that, stop my code. All right, so I come to the very bottom of the code behind my user form. Then this right now is a local variable. Someone tell me something about the way this variable is declared right here. Because this is declared this way, fill in the blank. What is it about there's something specific about that variable because I declared it right there instead of somewhere else that it has some limitations. And what are those limitations? Go ahead in the back. Can only be accessed by this subprocedure. And what we want to do is we want to have this available to multiple subprocedures. So when we initialize it, we say, okay, this is the row that we're on. And then when we go to save it, I still want to be able to refer to that variable. And so instead of declaring it inside this subprocedure, the initialize subprocedure, I'm going to initialize it at the very top of my module. This will now be a module level variable, and any subprocedure in the module will have access to it. So when the form gets initialized, it's going to say, hey, this is the row that I was on. In fact, that should be what that line is saying here. Yeah, just, hey, whatever the active cell is, get the row property of that range, and then put that into the row variable. And now that I've declared that at the top of my module, way at the top, it's now going to say, okay, this is available anywhere. So now when I go to click save, it should know what that is. Let's give that another shot. In fact, I think I'll just kind of scrunch these down a bit so we can see the name here as well. All right, Control-Shift-E. We'll change the green to say red. And we'll go to the very first manufacturer and save. So we can see that that's changed to red over here, and A16 is the manufacturer. So we're now reading the data into the form when we get it going. We are writing the data out when we say save. Let's go ahead and code the cancel button as well. So CMD cancel is going to be just like save, except we're not going to, we're going to do the unloading. There's just nothing to save. So that will close without saving. Save will save and close. But here's the idea. Now let's do one more thing here while we're thinking about saving. Let's just say, I think I'm pretty comfortable with like data validation for the combo box, because the only way they can change it is by choosing a different manufacturer. So they're going to have valid data there. But what might be a rule that we could put on to make sure that they've given us a valid product name? Like, imagine a product name that you would say, you know what, that product name has to be invalid. What would that characteristic of that product name that you would know is invalid? What would that be? Just give me a characteristic of a product name. If the user typed in that for the product name, it's got to be wrong. Go ahead. So you're saying, listen, if it's got to have a name, it's got to have at least something. So you're saying one character is enough? Okay, so I'm fine with that. So the rule that we're going to put, the data validation rule we're going to put here is, listen, you've got to actually have something here. And let's go one more. Let's say it's not allowed to be a space or any number of spaces. You got to have something visible here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put some data validation. So when the user clicks the save button, I'm going to have an if statement here that just says, let's just take a look at the text of the, let's do this. If the length of the trim of that text, so whatever text they've got put in there, we're going to trim it, which will get rid of leading and trailing spaces. And we're going to say if the length of that is equal to 0, then we have a problem. What are we going to do with the problem? Let's just put up a message box. And we'll say product name is required. Let's see this. That's the first one is the prompt. The second one is which buttons we want to do. I think just an OK is all right. So I'll type in the constant VB OK. This is kind of interesting. This buttons actually is a kind of a strange thing. VBOK is just a constant. I would get the same thing if I put a 1 there for VBOK. But it allows me to specify not just the buttons that I want to show on that message box, but also like little icon that goes with it. Like if I want to say, hey, this is an error, there's another constant called VB critical. And it's 16. And so if I actually add those together, this is really strange, but if I give it a 17, it'll be both that button and it'll show the critical icon. So I can either put 17 there, or I think it's better to say I want to do VB OK plus VB critical. And that way I can kind of see, okay, that's the button set that we have, and it's critical. And I'll just finish off here with a title. Users love this, user error. We'll just put that as the name of the title on that caption. So now I'll put that message box up. We'll see that here in just a second. But then what do I want to do? And I think the idea here is that we would have multiple of these kinds of checks. I'm going to check to see if this is valid, if that's valid, if the other one's valid. I want to do all these checks. And only if they pass all of these checks do I actually want to get to the saving and the closing. And so let's do here. We'll just say exit sub. So if I get into this problem, in fact, and I could have multiple of these that I'm checking for. And so similar blocks like this, they're kind of looking at different data that's being entered. And then would say, listen, if you ever hit one of these where you've identified that we've got bad data, show the message and then get out of here. So do not save it for sure. And then don't unload the form. Leave the form up, put the message box. Let's go ahead and give that a try. So I guess I can just run it from here. I'm just going to try to wipe out that text and click save. User error, product name is required. I got the little X and little sound that goes along with that error, whatever the error sound is set for. So if I put in just one little thing here, just one character should be, let's put a bunch of spaces first and do the same thing. And let's put in then just one character. And it looks like that's really interesting. Oh, it's a 4. It's just not showing because it's right justified. It's over there. There's the 4. Okay, questions? Show me how comfortable you are with what we've just done, 0 to 5. 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. Okay. Then let's go ahead and get introduced to the next set of controls here. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to my form. View my Project Explorer. View my Project Explorer. And I'll come back to my form. Okay. So here's my form. And what I'd like to do is I'm looking here at my department. There are only 4 departments: hunting, apparel, outdoor, and general. And so I'd like to be able to give that, to introduce you to the thing called this, the way that option buttons work in VBA for the department. So the first thing I'm going to do to put this department selector on here is I'm going to use this tool right here. So this tool is called the frame, and it's used to group option buttons together. So it looks like a little XY on top of a little square here. I'm going to choose that, and then I'm going to come and drag in this area that I'm going to use for selecting my department. Now, I'm not going to be referring to the frame at all through code. So I'm more than happy to leave this named frame 1, but I do want to change the caption of it because that's going to be what's showing that we're selecting the department. So I'll just change the caption to be department. And here's the idea. These option buttons, which is this tool right here, will be the next tool we're using, they're sometimes called radio buttons, because like on the radio in your car, when you choose a radio station, whatever radio station was playing before is off. You only get one at a time. And the act of choosing a different radio station unselects whatever radio station was currently playing before. And so the reason that I want to have a frame here is because that will group those together logically. If I didn't have a frame, then all the radio buttons on this form behave as one set. You select one, it deselects every other one. But if I want to be able to have like multiple different sets of option buttons, then I have to put them in their frames, and that will keep them from kind of stepping on each other's toes, if that makes sense. So even though I'm only going to have one set here, I'm still going to put it inside this frame, just so you understand that that frame is actually meaningful. It's not just decorative. So now I'll select the option button control, and I'll just drag in an option button. Then we're going to want like 4 to choose from. So I'll copy these down. I want these a little bit wider. And let's see if I can get those ordered so that they're looking kind of reasonable. Okay, so I've set up 4 option buttons inside this frame. And I'm going to make sure that I name these well and use the captions well here. So the first one I'm going to put as, let's see, apparel. I think apparel, yeah, it's alphabetically first. I'll just go ahead and put them in alphabetical order. So I'm going to change the name of this to be OPT apparel. And the caption is just going to be apparel. The next one is general. So I'll change that one to be OPT general. Caption to be general. Next one will be hunting. And finally, outdoor. Now, option buttons, I'm not sure that this is really the best example for option buttons, because option buttons should be something, you should set these up for data that's not going to change ever. Can I imagine adding a new department? I can imagine adding a new department. And because I've made this as an option button, adding a new department is going to require me coming into the form and actually making a new option for it here. So really, option buttons are designed for things that you're saying, you know what, these choices are never going to change. Because you really don't want like some business decision to say, oh, you know what, we're adding a new department, to say, oh, we've got to go and recode all of our forms now to handle that one. It'd be much better off to use that from a combo box or something, so that we can just change the data and the rest of the thing will work. But I'm trying to give you an example of using this option button here. All right, so now this one's going to be really different in terms of reading from the sheet. So when we show the data, we've got to bring the information here from column C to be able to drop it into, to select which one of these is like going to have the dot on it. It's going to show that it's selected. And so let's go ahead and go to our code. And let's find our show data. Show the data. Here it is. All right, go ahead and put a comment here for the department. Now this one's a little more difficult because we have these four controls. One's called option apparel, option general, option hunting, and so forth. And we want to look and see which word is here, and then activate the appropriate option button. And so for this, I'm going to use a select statement, a switch statement. So it's called select in this language. So select, and let's just remember the syntax for select. END select case, and then I give it something to look at. And then I'll have several choices to match it up against, case 1, case 2, and so forth. So I'm going to say select case, and I'm going to look at my sheet on the current row. I'm looking column C. And then I'm going to say, oh, if that is apparel, then what am I going to do? I'm going to say OPT dot apparel. I'm sorry, OPT apparel. And it has a property called value, which is either true or false. So we're saying, listen, we're going to look at what's in column C of my active row. And if that says apparel, we're just going to set the value property of that option button to true. And that will, if anything else was selected, it'll unselect it. That will become the one that is selected. In fact, I think just because this code will be a little bit more readable if this is all on the same line, I'm going to show you how to put two statements on the same line in VBA. You do that by separating the statements with a colon. And so if I put a colon between those two, now, because it's just, that one simple line, it'll make this code a little bit more readable. So we then have general. We've got general hunting and outdoor. And that will be OP. We've got to make sure that we've got the names of the option buttons selected as well. What should we do if it's none of those? There's the four things we're expecting. What should we do if it's none of those? If someone's like changed the data, like on the sheet, it's not one of those. Put up a message box, a problem with the data. Sure. So if it's not one of those two, any of those, we'll say case else. And put up a message box. Unrecognized department. We're going to put, again, we'll do that same thing, VB OK and VB critical. Actually, let's put unrecognized department. I'm going to put unrecognized department as the title. And then for my message, I'm just going to say did not, let's see. Let's go ahead and let's put the value that's there. So we'll tell them what it is that's wrong. So we're going to pull the value off of the cell, the one we couldn't find the value of. I'll concatenate onto there a string that says space not recognized. Is not a recognized department. And then let's do this, switching to general. I think I'd like to put quotes around general here. But what's the problem if I put a quote right there? What is the problem if I try to put a quote right there inside this string? Because this is a quote terminated string, the interpreter is going to come along and it's going to say, oh, double quote. It's not a recognized department. Great, 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 great. It gets to that double quote right there and it goes, oh, that's the end of the string. And then it would see this general and would go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so the way that you put a double quote into a double quote terminated string in VBA is a little bit weird. You put in two of them. It's like, if one is like no good, I'm going to like put in two instead. So now what really happens is the interpreter sees this double quote and it comes along, okay, we're making a string literal, that's great. It sees that double quote and it says, I think that's the end of this string literal. But let me just check, because this could be a quote inside of a quote. I'm going to check the very next character. If that next character is a double quote, I'll go, oh, it's not really the end of the string. It's just a quote in the string, and it'll just keep going. And so it peeks ahead and it goes, oh, that's not really the end of the string. It's just a quote in the string. And so it goes, okay, that's a quote. It gets to this one and goes, oh, I think it's the end of the string. Let me peek, and it goes, nope, it's not. Keep going. It's going to put that space on. I think that's the end of the string, and it's going to look and see the comma, and it's going to say, yeah, that's the end of the string. So let me go ahead and just change the data on one of these rows. Let's see, what's the record that I'm messing up here? Record number 6. Let me go ahead and change this from hunting to huntin, the southern version of that. I'm going to huntin. And now Control-Shift-E. Huntin is not a recognized department, switching to general. Oh, I said we're switching to general, but I didn't actually switch to general. So we got to also do the switching to general part. So we'll go ahead and set the option to general for true to, we'll set the general's value to true on that one as well. So now, if I run this, hunting is not a recognized department, switching to general, and we'll see that it comes in as general. All right. Questions? To actually get this data to save, it's going to be a little complex on the saving end as well. So I'm just going to copy one of these, so I'm going to type it from scratch. And let me come to my saving part here. All right. So where is CMD save click? So we've written out our name, our manufacturer. Let's go ahead and do the department. So I'm going to just do this as a series of if statements, or as a long if, else if. If apparel, now what I have to have between my if and my then is something that's true or false. And this is itself true or false. Right? This is a Boolean property. And so I don't have to say if it equals true, because it is true or false. So if that one is checked, then that expression will be true. And I'm going to go ahead and write out to my column C the value that I want to put, and that is apparel. Else if, what's our next one? General. I think I'm going to copy that structure. Now, I guess we can just, since we know they're going to have they have to choose one of those. There's no getting out of choosing one of those. I'll just leave the last choice as an else. Okay, and so if option apparel, then we'll do this. If option general, we'll put general. If hunting, otherwise we'll put outdoor. So now this is going to say, listen, if the apparel is checked, plug apparel in there, we hit the else if, and we're done. Otherwise, let's see if the general is checked. If the general is checked, we'll write general, we'll hit the else if, and we're done. If that one wasn't checked, then we'll get to this one. If hunting is checked, we'll write hunting, we'll hit the else, and we're done. Otherwise, it's got to be outdoor, and we'll write that in. So now we've kind of done the other half of the option buttons. A little bit more complex to work with, but what's nice about the option button is that it's a single click to activate it. Like, so in terms of data entry, one click, and it's not like click to drop down, scroll, and choose the option. Just click it and it's set. Okay, Questions on the option, on working with an option button? It gives us 45 minutes to do the next one, which is the hard one. And that is our promotions. And this is the one that most folks like. There's an analogous part to the project that goes along with this stuff. And so this is the part that is most challenging for folks here. So let's take a look at this. What we're doing with promotions is a little bit strange. What we're saying is that we can have multiple promotions on a given item. And we're just squeezing the promotion numbers in here with commas between them. What this is doing is it's referring to our lists over here, our very first column here, or two columns here, A and B. These are their promotions. And we want the marketing folks to come up with great new promotions that they can just add in here, and we want our code just to work with them. And so we need some way to show which promotions are available and which promotions have been selected. So let me come back to my form. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in another kind of control here. And in fact, maybe I'll start by copying this manufacturer label. I'm just going to move it over here because I'm going to need this one to be promotions. Oops. Back to my, change the cap. I'm not going to refer to it through code, so the name label 2 is just fine. The caption here is going to be promotions. And that's going to bring us to a new kind of control. It's this control right here called a list box. So a list box is just like the drop-down portion of a combo box. But what's neat about the list box is it allows me to have multiple items selected simultaneously. In the combo box, I get to drop down one and pick the one that I want. But a list box, I fill it up the same way. I put the items into the list the same way as I do the combo box. We'll review that here in a moment. But then I can configure it to allow the user to select multiple ones simultaneously. And so let's go ahead and name this one, because we'll definitely be referring to this through code. So I'll call this LST, short for list box. I'll call it list promo, LST promo. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and plug the, start off by listing the options in here. So my options are here on column B, starting in row 2. I'll come to my code and then find where I am showing the data. All right, so here I'll put a little comment in here for promos. And I think I'm just going to copy how we filled the manufacturer. So I'm going to copy this whole loop right here. And when I've highlighted something, you can actually copy something without putting it on the clipboard just by holding the control key down and dragging it. And that will drag it, leave the other one there, and give you a copy down below. So control drag is kind of a nice feature. All right, so I want to do until column B is blank. Talking about column B here. And instead of CBO MFR add item, I'm talking about LST promo. Promo add item. So that should then just go right down, start in column B2, and as long as we've got contiguous text there, it should load those into that list box. Let me go ahead and run my form and make sure that that part's coming in okay. Looks great. I've got this coming in. Could use a little more space here, it looks like, so I'll go ahead and adjust that. Okay, so let me come back to my list of products. I'm going to come on to this one that's got a 1, 4. And we could have 3 or 4 more promotions added in later, and they could add, we've got some product that's just not moving. What are we going to do? We give free warranty. We're going to give it buy one, get one, free shipping, free anything we can do to get this thing to move. And so we want to be able to have all those promotions showing up simultaneously. So, any thoughts on how we can do it? Don't talk to me in terms of VBA. Talk to me in terms of English. What might be the first step that I should do as I'm trying to figure out how do I select the items that I want to have selected? I'm sorry, not how do I select the items? How do I know by looking at the data which items should be selected? Help me think through what should I do? As I'm looking at this, I've got to figure out that that's a 1 and a 4. How do I do it? Think back to our string manipulation functions. What might I do to be able to separate those into values I can work with individually? Yeah, so there's a function specifically designed for doing this. That's a common thing to do, that there's a function just for it called split. And it's one that we've played with a little bit. But now that we have been exposed to what an array is, we're going to be able to really dive in and see the split function in all of its glory. So let's go ahead. I'm going to comment here because this is going to be a little bit more code. So here's loading the promo values. And then here is going to be showing which promotions are currently selected. Okay, so here I'm going to declare a variable as variant. So let me dim selected promos. Let's see. I'm just going to call it promos as a variant. And now that I've got a variant, remember variant, I think this may be the first time I've made a variant data type in class. Variant is nice because it behaves the way you want it to behave. And what I want to do is I want to take the return value from that split. That split function is going to send back an array. And I would like this variable to kind of connect up to that variable as an array. So promos equals, and I'm going to see where my promos are. They're in column H. So I'm going to split whatever's on my current row. Whoops. Data.cell, I copied the wrong one. More work than it was to just start from scratch. Column H. And I'm going to split that on a comma. First argument is which cell I'm pulling the data from. Second argument is I'm going to split it on a comma. This now will return an array. Let's go ahead and put stop right here. So when I run this, it should take me into break mode right there. It'll be before I see the form, because you don't get to see the form until the form's initialize method is done running. So we won't see it yet, but we should have access to our promos array at this point. So I'm going to make sure I'm on row number 2, which has that 1,4 promos in it. And I'll run that code. So it stopped here at stop. So I should be able to look here into promos and look at what's in the 0th position. So there's the 1. If I look at the number 1 position, I've got the 4. So I have access to that 1 and that 4 independently. So now that I've got that array with the values that I'm actually after, how am I going to select multiple items? Because if I look, let me go ahead and run it out here. If I just try to select a different one, it unselects the other one. Maybe I have to hold the control key down. No, shift key down, control shift. I don't know. No, this right now is set up to only allow one to be selected. So let's change that. That's just a property of the list box. So let me come find my list box. I've got to find my form first. I'm kind of thinking, oh, it was running. I had to hit stop first. I had to get stop to be able to get to my form. All right, so this has a property, and the property is called multi-select. Down here is multi-select, and the default is 0, which means just select one. I can either have multi or extended. I prefer extended. Multi, when you have the second choice, multi, you click on and off each one individually. Truth is, that might be better for this example. But extended is the way you're used to selecting multiple items in a list, at least in Windows. If you hold the control key down, you can put individual ones on and off. If you hold the shift key down, it'll select the block in between the one that was selected before. And so that's my preferred way to do it, because it's like the normal behavior in a multiple list. So this now, we'll go ahead and run this, and let's see, show form. And it's stopping here, so I'll play that through. So now the user can select this. They hold the control key down, they can turn them off and on individually. Hold the shift key down, it'll select the whole group at once. But we need it to make it so that when it first shows up, the right ones are selected, because this should be free shipping and some discount here as well. So let's go ahead and figure that out. Oh, let's do this. It's kind of hard to show it to you. So let me explain it, and then we'll see it once we write the code. So we have, oh, at least we can do this. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and run it again, get to my breakpoint. Okay, so I have this thing called LST promo. It has a property called list. And that is the array that's being displayed in the list box. It is an array. So if I say list 0, it'll show me the first one that's there. 1 will be the next one. 4 should be 4 should be discount. I'm sorry, it's 3 because it's 0 base. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And so there's a property that is an array that has the whole list that we can choose from. There is another property that's an array called selected. It is exactly the same size as the list array, except instead of being the names of the items there, it's just a Boolean array, true or false. Right now, which ones are selected? In my promo list box, which ones are selected? None of them. And so my selected array should be SELECTED. My selected array should be false in every single one. So number 3 is false, number 2 is false, number 1 is false, number 0 is false. But if I were to change, say, number 1 to be like selected, to say the number 1 position of my selected array is equal to true, I can set that, and then I can ask what it is, and now it'll say true. And if I keep running to show my form, it will be selected. And so I can read to tell if it's selected by saying, hey, what's the value here? And I can make it selected by setting that element in the array either to true or to false. And so what I need to do now is look across this array, this promos array, and see what's in it, and then just set the right property of my selected array. So let me just declare a little variable here to allow me to iterate across that array. I think I'm stopped. I want to come to the code. Okay, so here's where I'm declaring my promos array. Let me just dim x as an integer here. Okay, I've already got R, and I'm done. I have R already declared, and I've used it in this loop, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it here as well. So for R, I want to look across my whole promos array. So for R equals 0 to the upper boundary of promos. Next. And now I just want to set the selected property, the right position in the selected array based on what's in my promos. So promos is going to have, on this row, it's going to have the two values, 1 and 4. And so which elements, which index numbers of my selected array do I want to set to be true? They're going to all start at false. I now know that 1 and 4 need to be, promotions 1 and 4 are selected. So what do I put here to actually set that to selected? I'll get us started. It's going to be the name of the list box, LST promo, dot, the name of the property, selected. I've got to have some index number in there because selected is an array. I have to say which variable in that array I want to address. And I'm going to set that equal to true. So what do I put here? Yes.
Use the promos array, like the R.
Right, yeah. So my promos array has those two items in it. It has 1 and 4. And so the indices I'll be using to refer to that, it's going to be, so maybe what we should do is we should just print these off first. Let me comment this out. It's like a couple of steps to actually get this to work. So let me debug.print R and promo sub R. So the whole point here, promo sub R, the whole point here is that I've got this variable R that's going to go from 0 to 2 on this particular example. And I want to use that to get at the values that are in my promos array. So let me just move my stop up above this loop, and then we'll step through it. Okay, so if I look at promos right now, it should have those two items in it. So promos sub 0 should be 1. Wrong language. Promos sub 0 should be 1, and promos sub 1 should be 4. So let me step through here, F8. So when R is 0, it should print 0 and then promo sub 0, which is 1. That should print 0 and 1. Now R is going to be 1. It should be 1 and 4. So I need to set two of the variables in my selected array to be true. And what expression do I put here to get the right ones? That selected array, how big is the selected array? How many elements are in the selected array? There are 2 in my promos array. The promos array comes from here. But my selected array is exactly the same size as the number of elements that I have showing in my list box, and it's getting its values from here. So my selected array has 4 elements in it. And when I have promotion 1 and 4 selected, which indexes of the array do I want to set to true? 0 and 3. I got 0 and 1 here. I've got 1 and 4 here. So what do I put here? I heard someone say promo sub R. That's partway there. And then what? -1. So this is what's in the array. And that's the way the user is going to think about that promotion. The user does not want to think about promotion number 0. They want to think it's the first one being promotion number 1. We have to think of it as promotion number 0 because it's our array starts with 0. We don't have a choice on that. And so when the promotion number, that clock isn't working, is it? No. Okay. When my promotion number is 1, the index number I need is 0. When it's 4, it needs to be 3. So subtracting 1 off of it should do the trick for me. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up to run this, and I'll run it through. And now we get those selected. Delightful. Whew. So this code, yeah, it's a little bit more involved to get this showing in that list box which ones there are. But now if we create a new, we have any marketing majors here? Give me another promotion. What would be another promotion to do here? Free shipping, free warranty, buy one, get one free. Discount, free binoculars. That's a good way to get rid of binoculars. binoculars. So now if I run this, run it through, free binoculars just shows up. We've added that data there, it should be ready to go. Delightful. Okay, so, oh, wait a minute. Am I not on, did I get off the line? I'm on that line. Selected items is true. I'm going to comment out that stop. That I think that should have highlighted those. And it did. Had I highlighted them before? I didn't think I highlighted them. Anyway, they're highlighted now. And of course, if I was to change this by hand, instead of be 1 and 4 to be 3 and 5, then those ones come up selected. Great. So we just have to we got to do it in the reverse. We've got to build that comma separated string of integers based on what's shown there on the list. So let's go to the save for this one and tackle it. All right. So apparel, I guess I'll go ahead and put a note here for promotions. How am I going to do this one? So I think I just want to kind of build up a string based on the index numbers that are selected in that list box. So let me I'll just dim a string variable called temp. I'm going to need to iterate across the array. So let me dim x as an integer. And then integer for x equals 0 to the upper boundary. Actually, let me introduce you another property of the list box. So my list box, LST promo, has a property called list count. It actually knows how many items are in the list box. I could have asked for the upper boundary of the selected array, but it actually has a list count. Now, if I have 5 items in my array, what is the list count going to be? 5. It will be the number that's there. And I need this to iterate 5 times. So I got to go from 0 to 4. So I'm going to subtract 1 off of that. And now let's just check to see if I'm now going to look across every single element in that array, in the selected array. And if it's true, that's an index number that I want to keep track of. So if LST promo dot selected is that true or false array, sub x, and remember, because it's Boolean, that expression itself is true or false. I could make it read a little more like English if I say equals true. You see how this is the same, right? If this is true, this part is true, then this says true equals true. The whole thing is true. If this part is false, the expression is false equals true. The whole thing is false. So it's like making my interpreter work a little bit harder by actually processing that equals true, but it's like a nanosecond. I mean, if this is more readable to you, then definitely put the equals true in there. How many, just show me how well you understand that distinction, that adding the equals true here doesn't change what this is doing. Show me how comfortable you are with that idea. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Which way do you like to see it better? How many of you say, you know what, I prefer to see the equals true in there? About half. How many are saying, I don't care? Either way is fine. Okay. I'm going to leave it in for here. So if I'm looking at the selected array at the x position, if that equals true, then that's a keeper. Temp equals what it used to be. Temp equals, why don't we do this? Why don't we say equals a comma? It's going to put them on, I guess I probably do want them to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say it equals what it used to be plus a comma plus the new value. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. Temp equals temp. Concatenated with a comma, concatenated with my index number x. But when x is 0, which promotion is it? It's promotion number 1. So I'm going to have to add 1 onto that. When x is 3, it's promotion 4. When x is 5, it's promotion 6. Now, this is going to give me a comma at the very beginning of my string, because the first time I hit this, temp is going to be a 0-length string. So it'll be a 0-length string concatenated with the comma. So after I'm done here, I'm ready to write out to my cell, but I want to skip that initial comma. And this is in column H. So data on my, looking at my data sheet, row, column number H dot value is equal to temp, but I don't want the whole thing. What I want is the mid of temp starting at the second character. So this is saying skip the comma. That comma, that the mid is saying, I don't want that. I know that first character is going to be a comma. Actually, if it's anything. So if there are no promotions, that's going to be a problem because it's going to say, look at the second character of a 0-length string. So let's do one more thing here. Let's say if the length of temp is greater than 0, then we want to set it to that. Otherwise, actually, let's do it this way. If the length is equal to 0, there's nothing selected in that array, then we want to set the value to a 0-length string. Otherwise, we want to take whatever is in the temp array and write it out to the sheet. Ooh. So yeah, it's kind of a lot to be able to get the data to move around that way, but I think that'll work for us now. Let me give it a try and then we can come back and see if you have any questions about this. So that brings up 3 and 5. I'm just going to add, oops, I'll leave 3 and 5 and add 2. Click on save. Uh-oh. Data cells. Oh, thank you. Equals the min. So now that's 2, 3, and 5. We'll run it again. Just put on 1 and 4 the way it was before. Getting to 1 and 4. We come to this one. Put them all on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, questions on this code? It's not especially simple, but show me your comfort level with this part of the example. Really, 5s. You guys are great if you're at 5 on this. 5s, 4s, and 5s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Okay. All right, one more thing I'd like to do with this example, and that is we have this promotion called discount. And in fact, over here, we've got a discount percent. It only makes sense for us to have a discount percent if promotion number 4 is selected. That discount is there. So I don't mind leaving like an old discount number in here, but if the user like selects promotion number 4, I want to show that discount. I mean, I want to show a place to enter that discount. So let's go ahead and just give us a place to enter the discount. So I'm going to just, again, copy my little manufacturer label, put it right in here, and I'll bring in a text box, which is my second control here, to be the discount. Oops. So let's change this from saying manufacturer to say discount. Guess we don't need to be that wide. We probably should. This is showing it as 0.3. We probably should make it clear how to enter that discount. So let me copy this. And we're just going to put a percent sign next to this thing so we can see that we're talking about a percent. Caption is going to be percent. This text box should have a name like txt percent. And let's go ahead and just read and write the percentage the same way we did the name. So this is exactly analogous to that name. We're just going to read off the sheet to put it in here, and we're going to read from the control back onto the sheet when we save. So let's get that percentage coming in to start with. So where's show the data? Show the data. I'm just going to copy my txt name. Maybe I'll even just put it right here with the other ones. So txt percent dot text is equal to hi column I. Then it's got to reverse that for when we go to save the data. I guess I'll also do that one up here right next to the name. And just reading it out of the sheet, reading it off of the form and writing it back to the sheet. So that will get the percent coming in, on and off the form just fine. But the trick is I only want to show that percent when the percent promotion is selected. Oof. So any thoughts? Where should I look to start solving that problem? Because right now, when I run the form, let me go ahead and get on one that's got a percentage on it. Oh, actually, we've got this coming into the workbook. Let's just go ahead and let's convert these kind of in our mind to actually be percentages. We could do a conversion to where, you know, we're storing it as a decimal, but we're showing it as a percent. I'm just going to convert these to all be regular percents. So if I'm on this one and show it, we've got promotion 4 selected. So I've got, yeah, it's got a discount, and it's a 10% discount. I should be able to change that to be a 25% discount. When I save it, it should update that 25. So that part's working okay. But what I want to do is if the selected, if the discount promo is selected, that's when I want to show this whole block. That's what I want to show. Control Shift E. Control-Shift-E. Oh, I think we might have a problem. We might have one more problem to deal with. But I want to make it so if the user turns that one off, that the discount percent goes away because it's not relevant unless that is selected. So what do I, give me somewhere to kind of start looking to think, what's the first step in trying to solve this problem? What's the first thing I got to figure out? Go ahead. So how do I make something visible and invisible? That's easy because there's a visible property, true or false. Okay, so that's good. So how am I going to know when I should change the visible property of these three controls? Go ahead here. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say if like selected property for that one is true.
Okay, yeah. So that's where I want to read it there. Yeah, but absolutely, that's what we're going to have to do. But when do we want to look? When do we want to look to see what that visible property is? And the answer is anytime this changes. Like anytime an activity happens here that causes this to change, let's check and see if that thing should be visible or not. So let's think of it in terms of object and event. So let me come back to my user form. Stop my code, come back to my user form. So I've got this selected. In fact, I'll double click this. And that opened up lstpromo.click. Well, it's got the right object, but not the right event. So let me take a look at it, my options for the event here. After update, before update, I might just want to look through these. So this update sounds like it might be interesting. Change might be interesting. Click, maybe not. Let's just see when the change happens. I'm going to see what's triggering this. Debug.print. Promos changed. Control-Shift-E. It looks like it's already changed twice. Why did it change? Why did it change twice? That event fired when my other code set this. So it's not just the user changing it. It's like even when my code changes it. Well, that sounds great. Yeah, look, every time I change that, let's see what happens if I change 3 at a time. Can't delete that. Come to the end. What if I change 3 at a time? Yeah, that's only happening once. So that's great. So every time it changes, I think I just want to check to see if my discount, for this, I think we're just going to assume that it's the number 4, the index number 3, if that one is selected. So let's go ahead and say if that item is selected. So LST promos dot selected 3. Oops. Okay, so every time this changes, you just want to look and say, hey, listen, if our discount is selected, then we want to change. Ooh, did I name my control? I'm not sure I named the control. Let me go. I'm going to go make sure I've got all 3 of those controls named properly. So txt% is, my label is label 4. That's a bad name to refer to by code. So I'm going to rename this label to be LBL discount. And I'm going to rename this label to be LBL%. Okay, so now if it's selected, I'm going to set those 3 things. LBL% dot visible equals true. LBL discount dot visible is true. And TXT percent dot visible equals true. Otherwise, should all go false. I like it. Let's see if it likes me. LST promo singular. Yeah, it looks like whatever I do, if that's selected. Oh, a discount. I don't have discount. It's not happening. What did I miss on that one? LBL percent, LBL discount. Dot visible equals false. Didn't I name it discount? I don't know. DISCOUNT percent, TXT percent. I'm not quite sure why that's not going away. But there's one more thing that we got to tackle before we get there. We've got 1 minute to do it. I think this is failing when I don't have any promotions listed. Control Shift E. Oh no, I'm not sure why it failed before. Okay, so I think that's going to give you the examples that you need to really guide you through the project. So for the next project, oh boy, when's the Boggle project due? Oh, that's tonight. After you do that one, you've got enough now to do the next one, to get started on the next one as well. All right, I think I'm going to fiddle around and see why that discount isn't going away, and hopefully I'll get that fixed before I post. Any other questions? All right, thanks for coming. I'll get this posted. Class dismissed.